Okay, Prabhuji. So I'll start with this song, Jeev Jago by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. जीव जागो जीव जागो गोरा चंद बोले कोटा निद्रा जाओ माया पिशाचीरा कोले. Lord Gauranga is calling, wake up sleeping souls, wake up sleeping souls. How long will you sleep in the lap of the witch called Maya? So, who are these sleeping souls? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is asking to wake up. These are the ones who are not awakened to the understanding that they are spirit souls, they're servants of Krishna. They're not engaged in bhakti, chanting or hearing about Krishna. They engage in just material activities. These souls are just sleeping. These people, when they get something nice materially, they're happy and very joyful. And when they suffer some material loss, they're crying and they are in distress. Srila Prabhupada said that this material world is like a dream. In a dream, you may be a king and you may enjoy and laugh. In the next moment, you may lose everything and can become a beggar and you may be crying. You may see a tiger that is chasing you, and you may be fearing for your life, or maybe enjoying sense gratification. But all of this is a dream. The dream is over as soon as you wake up. So let's say somebody is having a horrible dream and they're suffering, and they're crying while sleeping, and a person next to him who is awake, um, what would he do to relieve this person of his suffering? He would wake him up, because when he wakes up, he realizes that there is no tiger, there is nothing that he has lost. That was just a dream. So that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing. He's waking us. Why are you suffering? There is nothing to suffer about or be happy about in this material world. All the things in the material world are temporary. So wake up to the reality that you are spirit soul, you're servants of Krishna, and your only duty is to chant Hare Krishna and go back to Krishna. भजिबो बोलिया ऐसे संसार भितरे भोलिया रोहिले तुमी अविद्यार भारे. You have forgotten the way of devotional service and you are lost in the world of birth and death. So we are all stuck in the cycle of karma, of birth and death. Sometimes we are going up in the heavenly planets, sometimes going down in the hellish planets, sometimes becoming a tree, insect, a cat, a dog, a pig, sometimes a human. We have all had millions of lives, and in each life we suffered birth, death, old age, and disease. But the problem is we don't remember any of that. But the Shastra is telling us, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling us, that we are lost in the world of birth and death. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Makchitta sarva durgani mat prasada tarishyasi atha chetvam ahankaran na shoshasi vinakshasi. That if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all obstacles of conditioned life. But if you don't work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, you will be lost. There is a similar verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita where it is mentioned that if we just remember Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then difficult things become easy. But if we don't remember him, then easy things become difficult. So I was remembering this pastime from Chaitanya Charitamrita about Gangadas Pandit, who was a teacher of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was a very nice devotee. Years before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the world, Gangadas Pandit, he was facing a very difficult situation. His village was attacked by Muslims. Gangadas Pandit, along with his wife and daughters, they uh, ran away from their home and they were running for their lives. And these Muslims, they were chasing them. And Gangadas Pandit and his family, they came to a dead end to the bank of Ganga. It was middle of night and there was no boat. And Gangadas Pandit, he was crying. He was distressed. And he decided that rather than have these Muslims touch his wife and his daughters, he would drown in the Ganga. And he remembered Krishna at that time. And at that moment, a boatman out of nowhere, It came out of darkness, and Gangadas Pandit said to the boatman, "Oh, boatman, please save me, save my family, I'll give you everything you want." And this boatman then ferried Gangadas Pandit and his family to the other side. So 20, 30 some years later, this incident, so this incident happened before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the world. So 20, 30 years later, um, in Mahaprakash Leela, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is reminding Gangadas Pandit that about this incident that nobody knew of other than Gangadas Pandit. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that, Gangadas Pandit, do you remember what happened that night? Do you remember that a boatman came out of nowhere to help you? It was me. I came as in the form of that boatman. You were very desperate to cross Ganga, and in that desperation, whom did you think of? You you thought of me, Lord Krishna. And what did I think? I was thinking how to take you out of that difficult situation. Just like you were remembering me and thinking about me, I was remembering you. It was me. I came in the form of that boatman. But I So, why did I actually come? To take you across Ganga? Yes, that was an external reason. But the actual reason was I got a chance to come close to you. So, Gangadas Pandit heard this, and he became mad in ecstasy and was filled with gratitude to know that how Krishna, he descended from the spiritual world just to become that boatman to save him and his family. So, we can think of so many times that Krishna has descended in our lives to save us from so many problems. Like sometimes when we are driving on the road and suddenly a car um, comes into your lane, and it gets very close to getting an accident, but somehow it doesn't happen. We might say thank you to Krishna at that moment, but then we move on, we carry on with other things, and we forget that Krishna saved our life. So something disastrous could have happened, but it didn't happen. So the devotee should always be very grateful to Krishna, because this world is a dangerous place. There is danger at every step. Padam padam yad vipadam. Do we realize that Krishna is saving us at every single step? So, being grateful to Krishna, we should thank him at every moment, and especially for giving us this gift of the Hare Krishna mantra. তোমারে লয়েতে আমি হইল অবতারা, আমি বিনা বন্ধু আরা, কে আছে তোমারা? I have descended just to save you. Other than myself, you have no friend in this world. Actually, our relationship with Krishna is the only eternal reality. Other relationships we have, father, mother, brother, sister, husband, friend, these are all temporary relationships. Like straws in water come together and separate after some time. We come together as one family for a very short time. But our relationship with Krishna is eternal. And in whatever species we go into, a tree, a dog, cat, insect, Krishna comes as Paramatma, as Super Soul in our heart. He's our Surit Sakha, our best friend. And in our time of need, only He and no one else can actually help us. But it's so unfortunate that we spend all of our time in maintaining our family relationships. We don't spend time building a relationship with Krishna, who is our best friend. Srila Prabhupada wrote in one purport that if we make friendship with Krishna, then one will never be cheated and he will get all help needed. So Krishna is in our heart and he is ready to help us. If we desire to go back home, back to Godhead, then he will show us the path. He's hearing our prayers. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have this pastime of a Vasudev leper who was suffering from leprosy. His body was filled with worms. The world had rejected him. This Vasudev leper, he was a self-realized soul. So whenever a worm would fall down from his body, he would place a worm back on him, thinking that my body equally belongs to that worm as well. So one time he heard Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to a nearby village. So he walked a long distance. He was very desperate to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But when he reached there, he found that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already left. So this Vasudev leper, he became very sad and he was lamenting, fell to the ground lamenting. At this point, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who is sitting in the heart as a super soul, he understood that his devotee was crying and lamenting. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who had already left that place and gone far, he returned to that place, and he came and he immediately embraced Vasudev. And Vasudev's leprosy got cured, and he got a very beautiful body. And he said a prayer at that point, that who am I? I'm a very sinful person. And who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He's the Supreme Lord. Still, he's so merciful. He's a merciful Lord that he has embraced me. Nobody would come close to me. Everybody would run far away because of my bad bodily odor. Yet, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has touched me. So we can see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sitting in our heart, and he knows our prayers, and he is hearing our prayers. Any aushadhi maya nasi lagi Hari Nama Maha Mantra Lao Tumi Magi. I have brought the medicine that will wipe out the disease of illusion from which you are suffering. Take this Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, when we are sick, we go to the doctor, and the doctor gives us a medicine. Although we don't know the chemistry of the medicine, how the medicine kills the bacteria or virus of the disease, but we follow the instructions of the doctor, and we take that medicine and we get cured. So, in the same way, the holy name is the medicine, and it is not bitter, it is actually a very sweet medicine. Hare Krishna mantra is a sweet medicine for our disease. And what is our disease? We have a skin disease. We think that we are this body, and everything connected to the body is mine, that I am the proprietor, I am the enjoyer, I am the doer. This thinking of ours is the cause of all of our suffering. This is the disease that we have. And this holy name, it cures this disease. Srila Prabhupada said the holy name is a solution to all our problems. भक्ति विनोद प्रभु चरणे पड़िया से हरि नाम मंत्रा लोए लो magiya. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I fall at the Lord's feet having taken this Mahamantra. So one day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he told his devotees, we are chanting and worshipping Krishna all day, but we are spending our night sleeping. So from today on, from for next 1 year, we will continue our kirtan also throughout the entire night. So this was the beginning of all night kirtans Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had with his close associates in the house of Srivas Thakur. It is mentioned that Srivas Thakur's house became the Rasa Leela Sthali. The Ras Leela, which is happening between Krishna and the gopis in the spiritual world, is transported to the material world in the form of this Hari Nam Sankirtan. Golokera Premadhan Hari Nam Sankirtan. So when we are chanting in Kirtan, we are participating in the Ras Leela of Sri Radha and Krishna. And when we are doing Japa, Sri Radha and Krishna and the gopis, they are dancing on our tongues. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, we're going to continue our kirtan also throughout the entire night. So these devotees, they had full faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction. They cried out, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. But then the reality dawned on them. They asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how is it medically possible? How can we medically sustain without sleeping? Every day and night for 1 year, we're going to do Harinam Sankirtan. Wouldn't we get tired? How will we maintain our enthusiasm? So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave them the key to Kirtaniya Sada. That's the third verse of Shikshashtakam. Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amani namana dena Kirtaniya Sada. That one should chant the holy name of Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and one should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Kirtaniya Sadahari. Raising his hands, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared, everyone please hear me. String this verse on the thread of the holy name and wear it on your neck for continuous remembrance. In Bhagavad Gita also Krishna has said, Satatam kirtayanto mam, that you should always chant my glories, Satatam. Srila Prabhupada said that we should chant 24 hours a day. In one letter he writes, even when you're walking, you can softly chant Hare Krishna. Even when you're on the bus going somewhere, you chant Hare Krishna. When you're working with your hands, you can also chant. When you're resting or going to take rest, you can also chant. Even in the toilet room while taking bath, you can also chant. So in this way, there is no limitation or restriction for chanting the holy name of Krishna. It should be chanted always and everywhere. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said, Khaite shuete yatha tatha naam le, kala desh niyam nahi sarv siddhi hoye. That regardless of time or place, whoever chants the holy name, even while eating or sleeping, he attains all perfection. So we should make a habit of chanting all the time. Whatever we are doing, we can chant. We can chant loudly. This is known as vachik chanting, or we can chant softly, upamshu, or we can chant in our mind, manasik. So our tongue should always be vibrating Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We should avoid doing prajalpa, useless talks about news, what's going on in the world, what's going on in others' lives. These are There are so many material things to talk about, but all of these are like poison. One devotee, King Kulla Shekhar, he has written a nice verse in Mukunda Mala Stotra Beri. He says that the greatest wonder in human society is that people are so incorrigible that they reject the life giving nectar of Lord Krishna's name, but instead they drink poison by speaking everything else. So if we drink poison, we'll get diseased, we'll get anxiety, problems in our life will increase. But if we drink nectar, Amrit of the holy name, we'll become healthy, we'll become joyful, and all our problems will get solved. So it's our choice whether we want to drink poison by speaking material subject matters or drink nectar by chanting the holy name. So this verse, Trinadapi Sonichana, talks about the two qualities that we should have to be able to chant constantly. That's humility and tolerance. So Srila Prabhupada writes the definition of humility in Bhagavad Gita. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. So if we are craving for respect and honor, then we are not being humble. Devotee quietly serves Krishna in the background, in the mood of servant of the servant, dasa das anudas. And the devotee considers that others are more advanced than me. There's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita that says, Premera swabhav yaha premera sambandh, sei mane Krishne mora nahi prema gandh. The devotee does not think himself a devotee. Instead, he always thinks that he has not even a drop of love for Krishna. So a devotee thinks that I am the most fallen. I have so many narthas. I commit so many offenses. I'm so far away from being a pure devotee. Others have so much love for Krishna. Like when Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, at the time they were Sakar Malik and Dabar Khas, they were working for the Muslim king, Nawab Hussain Shah. They were very pure devotees. The first time they came to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they fell down like rods before the Lord and they began to cry in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they said that we belong to the lowest class of men. We feel very much ashamed standing here before you. Dear Lord, let us inform you that no one is more sinful than us, nor is there any offender like us. Even if we want to mention our sinful activities, we would immediately become ashamed, and what to speak of giving them up. Dear Lord, you have incarnated to deliver fallen souls. You should consider that in this world there is none so fallen as us. We too are millions and millions of times inferior to Jagai and Madai. We are more degraded, fallen, and sinful than them. Now we know about Jagai and Madai, how much sinful those two were. It's mentioned that there is no sin in the world that they had not committed. burning people's houses, cheating, robbing, killing, raping women, everything, every all sins these two had performed. And here is our acharyas, Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. They are saying that they are more sinful than Jaga and Madai. So devotees, they genuinely feel in their heart that they are the lowest, and that's why they can beg for mercy from the Lord, beg for forgiveness, and also that's why they can humbly serve other devotees. So a devotee generally thinks that others are more advanced, so he becomes a humble servant of Vaishnavas. There's a pastime in Chaitanya Bhagavat about Dukhi. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, in Mahaprakash Leela, which is the 21 hours of ecstasy, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was exhibiting himself as the Supreme Lord, and he was sitting on the throne of Vishnu in Srivas Thakur's house. The devotees, they were giving Mahaprabhu a Maha Abhishek with sweet water, milk, ghee, yogurt, honey, the Panchamrit. So they were pouring Ganga water on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and hundreds and thousands of pots of water were brought from Ganga. And there were many stalwart devotees in the house of Srivas Thakur, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Srivas Thakur, Mukunda, Murari Gupta. All these devotees, they were pouring water on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there was a maid servant of Srivas Thakur called Dukhi, and she was bringing pots and pots of water from Ganga from far away, and she was putting them in the pots in a straight line so that the devotees can easily take that. And she was way in the background, unseen by anyone. Nobody was noticing her, but she was doing her service with such deep affection and honor and respect for the devotees, and with so much love she was looking at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when the Maha Abhishek was finished, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was dressed with beautiful bright yellow dhoti, nice upper cloth, finest jewelry, and beautiful fragrant garland, and his forehead was decorated with sandalwood tilak. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was accepting all beautiful offerings, and all the devotees, they were looking at this beautiful form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described like a beautiful, fragrant lotus flower, and all the devotees are described as busy honey-seeking bees. They could not look anywhere else, but they were looking at the beautiful nectarian lotus face of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now the question is, everybody was looking at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but who was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looking at? Everyone was looking at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was looking at one devotee, and her name was Dukhi, the maid servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The maid servant of Srivas Thakur. So Dukhi literally means one who is miserable. In Bengal, um, at that time, if a mother would lose children at birth, um, they would and then finally they would get a child. They would name the child Dukhi, which means that she's miserable. The idea is that Yamraj would feel sorry for the child, and he would leave the child alone. He would forgive the child. So imagine that there were thousands of devotees in the room, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the first thing he does is he calls Srivas Thakur and he asks, pointing to Dukhi, he asks, who is that girl on the back? And Srivas Thakur said, she's my maid servant. She's my maid servant Dukhi. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Dukhi? No, from today her name is Sukhi. Sukhi means one who is happy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave her initiation at first sight. Before giving benediction to any other devotee in the room, he gave mercy and benediction to the simple maidservant of Srivas Thakur. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Dukhi that, he said, I give you pure ecstatic love for Krishna. From today, you are Uttam Adhikari. You will cry and you will dance like a mad woman. So with this name, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave her unlimited eternal happiness. He gave her ultimate perfection of life, prema bhakti. So we see here that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was not seeing the externals, how big of a task you are doing, but what is your mood? What was Dukhi's qualification? She was simply doing the menial service under the guidance of Srivas Thakur, following his instructions. And she did her service to the best of her ability. Nobody was noticing her, but we see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was seeing her. So even if nobody sees what we are doing for Krishna, we should know for sure that Krishna is seeing what we are doing. Dukhi, she was doing her service to the best of our ability, and her heart was filled with love for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the devotees. So that was her qualification, and that's how she won the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the best position in the universe is to engage in Krishna's service in the mood of servant of the servant under the guidance of superior devotees. Gopi Bharatu Bad Kamale or Dasa 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 Anudas. I am the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. There's a nice verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita which says, Prabhu kahe Vaishnav seva nama sankirtan dui kare shigra pabe Shri Krishnera charan. Vaishnav seva and Nam Sankirtan. If you do just these two things, you will very soon attain shelter of Krishna. And what it means to serve the devotees, we have two types of service, Vapu Seva and Vani Seva. Vapu Seva, serving the devotees physically, and Vani Seva means to hear from them and follow their instructions. And Srila Prabhupada said Vani Seva is more important because Vapu is gone one day, but Vani stays eternally. So Krishna is very pleased when we serve his devotees. And a humble devotee, he always focuses on good qualities in other devotees. He ignores the bad qualities. Srila Prabhupada said devotees are like bees, they collect honey. So they see the good qualities in others, and they try to learn from each devotee. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also said, when faults in others misguide and delude you, you have patience and find faults in yourself. So let's see then what happens if we are not humble. Well, the opposite of humility is pride. If we become proud that, oh, I'm such a nice devotee, I know everything, what can I learn from this person? So with this attitude, we cannot learn. For learning, we need a submissive, humble attitude. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Krishna says, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him, and then he can impart knowledge unto you. Also, when we are proud, we find faults in others, and we commit offenses. Vaishnava Prad, which is known as a mad elephant offense. Why is it called a mad elephant offense? Well, you can grow a very beautiful garden. You can spend day and night planting various beautiful flowers and trees and plants in your garden. But when a mad elephant enters the garden, within minutes, he can ruin the garden, which you built by working hard for many, many years. So that's what a Vaishnava Prat does, is you lose taste in bhakti, material desires come into your heart, and slowly you'll lose attraction in Krishna consciousness. And you may just stop chanting and completely forget Krishna. So Krishna takes Vaishnava Prat very seriously. So we should be very fearful of committing Vaishnava Prat. Like we have the example of Gopal Chakravarti, who offended Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, he was giving a class, and he was mentioning that liberation is an insignificant byproduct of chanting. The real result of chanting offenselessly is awakening the pure love for Krishna in the heart. And liberation and mukti, you can get easily from chanting. Just with Namabhas chanting, you can get that. So this Gopal Chakravarti said to Haridas Thakur, hey, what are you saying? Liberation is an insignificant byproduct of chanting? After millions and millions of births, when one attains complete knowledge of the Absolute, still he may not obtain liberation. And look how this man is saying that even chanting offensively, even if the chanting is not pure, you can attain liberation. So this Gopal Chakravarti, he challenged Haridas Thakur that, okay, so if one is not liberated by Namabhas chanting, then you may be certain that I shall cut off your nose. And Haridas Thakur, he accepted the challenge. He said humbly, yeah, if Namabhas chanting does not give liberation, yeah, I will certainly cut off my nose. So Haridas Thakur is such a pure devotee. If one criticizes or offends such a devotee, Krishna does not like it. And we know in few days, Gopal Chakravarti, he contracted leprosy and actually his nose fell off. So we can see the danger of Vaishnava Prad. Gopal Chakravarti, he was very argumentative. Instead of submissively and humbly asking questions to clarify his doubts, he was rude and offensive to Haridas Thakur. So we should be careful not to hurt anyone with our body, mind, and words. And another thing for us to think about is what is there to be proud of. Humility means that we know that nothing is ours, everything is the property of Krishna. He gave it to us and he can take it away. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying that I am the intelligence of the intelligent. I am the prowess of the powerful man. I am the strength of the strong. I am the ability in men. So we can understand that we can't even lift one finger without Krishna's sanction. So we should not be proud of our material success and also our spiritual success. Our advancement in bhakti is heavily dependent on blessings from Krishna and the Vaishnavas. So we should seek blessings and mercy from everyone. And another definition of humility Srila Prabhupada gives is humility means that we are convinced beyond any doubt that there is nothing in the world, absolutely nothing in the world that can save us. Not our money, not our family, not our fame, not our gun, not our education. Nothing can save us except mercy of Krishna. When we are convinced like this, then we are humble. So when we have this feeling of dependency on Krishna, that Krishna, without you, I cannot do anything. Nothing can save me. At the time of my need, only you can save me. I need your help. Then we are being humble. Like Prahlad Maharaj says this verse, Balasya neha sharanam pitro narsingha nartasya chagadam udanvad udanvad udanvati majato na taptasya tat pratividhi ya ihanjasheshtastavad vibhotanuvritam tvad upekshitanam. So here Prahlad Maharaj is saying to Lord Nrsingadev, O Lord Nrsingadev, because of bodily conception of life, the embodied souls that are neglected and not cared for by you, they cannot do anything for their betterment. Whatever remedies they accept, it's all temporary, beneficial, it's not permanent. A father and mother, they cannot protect their child. A physician and medicine, it cannot relieve a suffering patient, and a boat on the water cannot protect a drowning man. So without Krishna's sanction, only Krishna can save us. Nothing else can save us. So, as example, we can see, we can learn from the humility of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada fulfilled the prophecy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had predicted, Prithvi te ache yadi nagar adigram sarvatra prachar hoy bimora naam. In every town and village, the chanting of my name will be heard. And Srila Prabhupada, he spread the holy name throughout the world. And here is what he has to say about it. So Srila Prabhupada said that I am simply trying to execute the order of my spiritual master. Whatever is being done is not account of my own intelligence or endeavor, because I'm simply an instrument in the hands of my spiritual master. So here we see Srila Prabhupada, he gives all the credit to his spiritual master. One person asked Srila Prabhupada, how are you able to speak so wonderfully? And Srila Prabhupada said, I am just speaking what the Supreme Personality of Godhead has said. I'm just repeating the same words. That's all. Don't think that I'm speaking. I'm simply an instrument. The real speaker is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's within and without. So here we see he gives all credit to Krishna. In Dhruva Maharaj's pastime in Srimad Bhagavatam, in one section in the purport, where it's mentioned how Dhruva Maharaj, because of him, his mother, who was his Path Pradaksha Guru, she also got a chance to go back home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, this Krishna consciousness movement is spreading now all over the world, and sometimes I think that even though I am crippled in many ways, if one of my disciples become as strong as Dhruva Maharaj, then he will be able to carry me with him to Vaikuntha Lok. So here Srila Prabhupada is saying that because of his pure disciple, he will get a chance to go back home, back to Godhead. So we can see his humility. And Srila Prabhupada, humility is also reflected in the Jaladuta prayers in the cargo ship when he was coming to America, when he suffered 2 heart attacks. He was in the ship for 37 days and he was facing seasickness, dizziness, was facing a very difficult time. Srila Prabhupada was finding solace in reading Chaitanya Charitamrita and he wrote his prayers. Uh, I'll just read one verse from there. Srila Prabhupada mentioned that I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhakti Vedanta, and now, if you like, O Krishna, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhakti Vedanta. So Krishna consciousness movement started with Srila Prabhupada enduring so much difficulty to come to America. He chanted the Hare Krishna mantra in the Tompkins Square Park, and from there the movement started. And we can see Srila Prabhupada, he had full faith in the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the Hare Krishna mantra. Also, humility means that you understand that Krishna is more important to you than your false ego. So when you don't allow your false ego to come in between you and your purpose, and your purpose is to serve Krishna. So when you don't allow your false ego to come in between you and Krishna, then you are humble. False ego means false sense of I. I am this, I am that, I am an advanced devotee. How can he or she say this to me? So when we have a big false ego, we get offended very easily. And then instead of thinking about Krishna, we feel disturbed. And when we are chanting, we might be thinking about that person, whoever said something to us, and we became disturbed from. And we might be thinking, okay, how will I get back to this person? How would I do tit for tat? And he said this to me. What would I say to him? So all these thoughts might come while you are chanting, um, and so here we can see we have stopped thinking about Krishna and we are thinking about um, other things. So yeah, when we don't allow our false ego to come between us and Krishna, then we are humble. Another quality that is needed for constant chanting is tolerance. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that we should tolerate situations in life, just like we tolerate winter and summer season. Matra sparshastu konteya sitoshna sukha dukkada agama pyano nitya stam sitakshashva bharata. So Krishna is saying that this appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress are like appearance and disappearance of winter and summer season. One must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So we tolerate winter and summer season. Why? Because two things. Because it is unavoidable. Even if we make a fuss about it, oh, it's too cold or it's too hot, we have no control over it. We can adjust to these climatic situations, but we have no control over these, uh, how hot or how cold it gets. So that's one thing. And the second thing is that these are temporary. So we know that after summer there will be winter, and after winter there will be summer. So these two things, that it is unavoidable and it is temporary, help us tolerate these climatic conditions. So, in the same way, we have to tolerate the miseries in our life, the adhyatmic, adibautic, adidevic miseries, the miseries from our body and mind, from other living entities, and from the climatic, natural calamities. We need to tolerate these miseries in the same way, knowing that it is unavoidable and it is temporary. Because if we don't tolerate these miseries, then we can't think of Krishna. Our energy will be wasted in unnecessary fighting these external situations. And another thing is that what helps us tolerate these miseries in life is to know that this material world is a prison house, and we are a prisoner, and we are serving our term, where we are suffering uh, the results of our own sinful reactions. And we are ourselves responsible for our suffering. And someone or something who's giving us suffering is just an instrument of our own karma, that we are to be blamed, and others are just like a postman delivering our karma to us. So if a postman comes to you and give you a letter that saying that you owe the government $1 million, you don't become upset at the postman. You don't become angry at him and run after him to beat him. No, you know that you took the loan from the government and that you are responsible for it. You don't blame the postman. So, in the same way, we don't get upset at the instrument of our karma. So, in the same way, our karma is our own karma is being delivered to us through someone or something. And Srimad Bhagavatam has this verse, Tatte anukampam susamikshmano bhunjana ivatma kritam vipakam ridvag vipurbhir vidadan namaste jivitayo mukti pade sadaya. So this verse is saying that while we are suffering the results of our own karma, we should we should be patiently suffering the results of our karma. And at the same time, we should be glorifying Krishna. Oh, Krishna is so merciful. He loves me. And you keep on offering obeisances to Krishna. Then you become eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. And in one purport in Bhagavad Gita, also Srila Prabhupada writes the mentality of a devotee. When suffering, the devotee thinks that, oh, this is the mercy of Krishna. Actually, I was supposed to get so much more suffering because of my karma. But Krishna is so merciful that he has minimized my suffering. Because of my karma, my hand was supposed to be cut, but Krishna has given me token punishment. I got only a paper cut. So this is what the devotee thinks when he gets difficulties in life. And then when happiness comes, when something good happens in life, the devotee thinks, oh, I don't deserve this. I'm so unworthy. But Krishna is so merciful that he has given me uh, such a nice situation. So in happiness and in distress, the devotee gives is thanking Krishna, is glorifying Krishna. And in regards to tolerance, I was remembering this pastime from Chaitanya Charitamrit. We have the pastime of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur is our Namacharya. He was born in a Muslim family and he used to chant almost 24 hours a day, 192 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra. In great ecstasy, he was chanting, and tears would flow from his eyes, and hairs was standing on his end. So, Haridas Thakur was a great devotee. But at that time, there was a Muslim Qazi who became envious of Haridas Thakur, and he complained about him to the Muslim king. That Haridas Thakur, he's although he's a Muslim, he's chanting the name of a Hindu god, and he's corrupting other Muslims. So the king had Haridas Thakur imprisoned, and the king told Haridas Thakur that Haridas Thakur, only if you stop chanting the holy name and you recite Quran, I will release you. But then Haridas Thakur, he told the king, Khand khand hoy teha yaye yadi pran tabu ami vadane na chade hari naam. So even if my body is cut into pieces and I give up my life, I will never give up chanting the Lord's holy name. So then the king, he ordered his soldiers to beat Haridas Thakur in the 22 marketplaces. And these soldiers, they were beating Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur kept on chanting the holy name of Krishna. And he was not feeling any pain. So these guards, they were beating him and beating him for 22 marketplaces, and these guards, they became tired and they were astonished, how can a person remain alive after so much beating? And on the contrary, Haridas Thakur is smiling. So these soldiers, they asked Haridas Thakur, oh Haridas, please forgive us for the offense that we have committed. You are such a powerful saint, but now, because you're not getting killed, the king is going to kill us because we're not able to execute his order. So Haridas Thakur said, okay, so if my staying alive is a problem for you, I'll give up my body right now. So Haridas Thakur chanted the name of Krishna and he went into Samadhi, and his body was thrown in the Ganges. And after some time, it's mentioned that he um, after some time he was floating in the water, and after some time he got out of the Ganges, and he walked straight back to the king. And the king, he realized his mistake, and he begged forgiveness from Haridas Thakur. So later, at one time in the Mahaprakash Leela, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was reminding Haridas Thakur of this particular incident, and he said to Haridas, Haridas, you remember the time when these soldiers, they were beating you, and I couldn't see you being beaten. So I came there with my Sudarshan Chakra to cut the heads of the soldiers. But the Sudarshan Chakra was not leaving my hand. And that is because you were praying in your heart for those soldiers. Oh Krishna, please be merciful on these living entities who are beating me. Forgive them of the offenses of torturing me. Haridas Thakur was praying like this, just like Jesus Christ was praying, oh Lord, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. The same way Haridas Thakur was praying to Krishna to please forgive these soldiers. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he couldn't do anything to the soldiers. So he covered Haridas Thakur's body with his own body, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took the beatings on his back on behalf of Haridas. So in the Mahaprakash Leela, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu shows his back to Haridas Thakur, and there were these marks, the beating marks were on his back, and Haridas Thakur, he saw, and he literally faints. He falls unconscious, crying, seeing the compassion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, this is one extreme example of tolerance, praying for those who are torturing us. But of course, we cannot imitate Haridas Thakur. We have to act on the level that we are on. Sometimes the question is asked that should we go on tolerating even if some person is exploitative? So, it's not about going on tolerating, it is about choosing our battles. We can't set everything right in the world, otherwise, we will not have time for chanting. We need to choose our battles, what we want to tolerate and what we don't want to tolerate. So in whatever situation that we are placed in, we have three choices. Either we tolerate the situation, or we do something about it to change the situation, or we just walk away from the situation. So let's say you're living in an apartment building, and there's someone playing very loud music um, in the other apartment houses, and it's disturbing you, and this is like a daily affair. So the three choices that you have is you tolerate it, or you complain about it to the management, or you change your apartment. So now, how do I know which thing I'm supposed to be doing, which thing I'm supposed to tolerate? Well, you need to reference your purpose. The the purpose is the Krishna conscious purpose. Whatever is helping you in your service to Krishna, in your chanting, you do that. So like I was hearing this example of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, how Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he wrote so many books, and he was a magistrate during the time of Britishers. But you will see that in his writing he never writes anything negative about Britishers. um, and Britishers had so much respect for Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who was appointed to the post of a judge at that time. Almost no Indian had was given such a high post. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he never confronted the Britishers, because he thought that at this moment there is no point in fighting the Britishers. Better to take advantage of my position in the British government and preach Krishna consciousness. So he took advantage, uh, and he tolerated. Not that he was happy about India being ruled by the Britishers. If he hadn't tolerated and he would have participated in the freedom movement, today we will not have all these books and bhajans and temples and so so he tolerated because he saw what is the higher purpose. The higher purpose was spreading Krishna consciousness and preaching. So tolerance means that you choose your battles, what you want to fight and what you don't want to fight, keeping your purpose in mind. So another example is, let's say you're going to your office for a very important meeting, and somebody cuts into your lane, and you become very angry at him. And then you cursing him, and what he thinks of himself. Is he blind? And you become like, you get into a very bad mood, and in that mood you reach your office and you have a very important meeting, and you mess up everything. So now what happened was, because of that small thing, you spoiled the big thing. So tolerance means that you keep small things small. Now the mind has a habit to magnify small things and make it big. It builds mountain out of a molehill, we say. But everything we know, everything in our life, whatever happens in our life is insignificant compared to the eternality of our life. So tolerance means to understand what is small and what is big, and not have small things impact our bigger purpose in life. So examples of tolerance: Srila Prabhupada, he tolerated the hippies. um, Imagine you are in a Srimad Bhagavatam call and there are like six people in the class, and they're all drunk and taking drugs. So Srila Prabhupada, he tolerated the hippies. In the beginning time, Srila Prabhupada used to do everything. He used to cook the feast, give the lecture, do kirtan and everything. And these hippies, they would leave their dirty plates behind, and Srila Prabhupada would clean the plates, until one day somebody asked Prabhupada, "Can I help you?" And Srila Prabhupada had tears in his eyes. And he said, "I thought no one will ever ask." Radhanath Swami Maharaj, I'll read one quote from him. He says that when our beloved Srila Prabhupada came to the West, traveled all around, traveled around the world, even came back to India, so many faults he was seeing in all of us. But he was focusing his attention on that little spark of potential within us. If someone just like Prashad, if someone just came for Kirtan, if someone just gave him a flower, whatever else they were doing, he just appreciated and fanned that spark. And ultimately, fanning that spark is what created blazing fires that actually burned away all the anarthas and faults in so many people's hearts. So we can see Srila Prabhupada, he tolerated his disciples. Even if they were making mistakes, he focused on the um, of little spark of potential in them, and he fanned that spark. So Srila Prabhupada tolerated them. But then we also see that when it came to Mr. Nair fighting for the ISKCON Juhu property, um, someone who was cheating Srila Prabhupada and abusing the devotees and disturbing the devotees, Srila Prabhupada did not tolerate that. He didn't say, "Oh, Trunadapi Sunichana." No, he kept fighting for that Juhu property land. So tolerance, um, tolerance means choosing our battles, what we want to fight, what we don't want to fight, keeping our purpose in mind. And tolerance also applies to tolerating our urges of tongue, belly, and genitals. Once the tongue is controlled, we can control all other senses. And tongue is controlled by chanting of Hare Krishna mantra and eating Krishna prasad. So we have this example of Haridas Thakur, how Haridas Thakur was not at all agitated when the prostitute came to him in the middle of the night, because Haridas Thakur was experiencing a high taste in chanting Hare Krishna, and all his senses were controlled. So that is also tolerance. So just summarizing some points of why we should tolerate. We should tolerate because we want to go back home, back to Godhead. We should tolerate because we have cooked it. It's our own karma coming back to us. And then when someone is behaving bad with us, we should tolerate, keeping in mind that this person is suffering. This person is under the modes of passion and ignorance. So basically, we should hate the sin, not the sinner. And we should tolerate because there are other people who are tolerating us. When we make a mistake, we like to be forgiven. So we should forgive others. Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj, he said that when we should, he said that whoever you encounter, um, think that the success of your spiritual life depends on the quality of your interaction with that person. And whatever happens, consider it as your own fault first. And then Also, devotees are able to tolerate difficult situations because they see Krishna's hand in everything. So he thinks that this is Krishna's plan, this is Krishna's arrangement. That devotee spoke badly with me because Krishna made him do that for my own purification. Krishna is my well wisher. So I heard this story. This was told by Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj in this regard. Um, how there was a person who was on an island. Actually, his ship had broken down and he was all alone on the island. Somehow he built a hut on that island, and every day he used to go inside the forest, get some fruits and roots, and his mind got conditioned. He had adjusted uh, to his situation. So one day he was eating some fruits in the forest when he saw that the small hut that he had built with so much hard work, his hut had caught on fire. So he said to God, God, I tolerated so much. You put me in such difficult situation. I'm all alone on this island. I was tolerating that. Now my only hut that I built, you've also destroyed that. So when he was complaining about this, surprisingly, a helicopter came down, and there were people, and they said that, oh, we just saw there was a fire here, and we thought that there's someone who's stuck on this island. So at once this person thought, oh, I was unnecessarily cursing God. Krishna was actually helping me. So devotees, they tolerate because they know that Krishna has a better plan for them, and he has a reason behind this particular situation that is created. So also we should tolerate and forgive for our own benefit. If we have the feeling of revenge, um, it burns us. So like when we take burning coal in our hands to throw at the other person, the first thing that happens is this burning coal, it burns our own hands. So this means that by forgetting and forgiving others, we are helping ourselves. And also, why do we tolerate? Because we want to settle our karma in this life. We should not wait to carry it forward to the next life. So if somebody did something to us, and um, if we take a revenge, or we respond um, incorrectly, and then what it does, it creates another cycle of karma, and we have to take another life to get the results of that karma. So we should close our karma balance in this life. And we should tolerate difficulties because everything is temporary. Actually, the real problem is birth, death, old age, and disease. The rest of the issues are temporary. So we should focus on the real problem um, by doing uh, Krishna bhakti. And remember that we can't change others, we can adjust. We should adjust to our environment, adjust to others, and do our sadhana properly, and go back home, back to Godhead. So these qualities, humility and tolerance, they enable us to chant constantly, and we will be able to remember Krishna all the time. And why is it important to remember Krishna all the time? It's because death can come at any time. Srimad Bhagavatam says that our life would be perfect if we remember Krishna at the time of death. Ante Narayana Smriti. And Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajante antakalevaram tam tam evati konte sada tad bhava bhavata. That whatever state we obtain, we remember at the time of death, that state we will obtain without fear. So if we remember Krishna, we'll go back to Krishna. To go back to Krishna, to live with Krishna, and play with Krishna, and dance with Krishna, and eat with Krishna, that is the perfection of life. Srila Prabhupada writes in Manipur. But to be able to remember Krishna at the time of death, um, it's at the time of death, whatever is in our heart will come out. So like when we squeeze an orange, what comes out is a orange juice, and we squeeze a lemon, what comes out is a lemon juice. It is mentioned in Garuda Puran that the amount of pain that we experience at the time of death is compared to 40,000 scorpions biting together. So at that point, what would come to our mind is based on what is in our heart. It's dependent on all the impressions that are on our mind. All the impressions on our mind, it accumulates to form the thoughts at the time of death. whatever activities we do in our life, whatever we see, whatever we speak, whatever we hear, all these leave impressions on our mind, and these impressions build our thoughts at the time of death. So it is essential that every moment we are engaging all our senses in the service of Krishna, especially our tongue in chanting the holy name. And when we chant the holy name, we should do it with our heart. The chanting should not be lip deep, it should be heart deep, prayerful chanting. Then the holy name would automatically come from our heart at the time of death. And Srila Prabhupada said, Bhajan kar, sadhan kar, marte jaan lo hoy. Everything is tested at the end of life. He said that practice to chant Hare Krishna mantra. Don't chant like a parrot who may learn to utter Hare Krishna but grabbed at at the throat cries, cow, cow. So Prabhupada said, you practice in such a way that at death comes, then you will chant Hare Krishna. So, um, so yeah, we should be practicing chanting all the time and chanting with our heart, prayerful chanting, and that is the perfection of our life. So I'll stop here, Prabhuji. Thank you for hearing me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Very nice.